Something I've been thinking about a lot lately is the idea of isolation and creativity, and if it's necessary to be isolated to be truly creative. Especially after events in the last couple of years, the idea of working from home and being isolated has just become normalized, and as a musician and YouTuber, I think it is a little bit odd that nearly everything I do alone. I spent the last 6 days on the road going to and from Schaumburg, Illinois for Knobcon, and on the way home I made a stop in Fort Wayne down at the Sweetwater family compound. I gotta admit that place was pretty neat, and shout out to Ian for showing me around. I picked up a couple goodies during my time away, and I also made the mistake of playing a Moog Sub 37, which I now want real bad. What really stuck out to me during this trip is how powerful it is to connect with people that share that same creative passion. To be totally honest, probably about 80% of the reason I even went is just to interact with people that really get it. On the drive up, I was listening to music, and there was a line in a song, "The whole world's talking, but nobody's saying a thing." There was something about that line that really stood out to me. There was just something in that sort of solipsistic idea that sums up so much of how I've been feeling about everything lately. For one reason or another, we seem to romanticize this idea of isolation for creativity's sake. I mean, people literally used to pay other people to pretend to be weird, magical hermits in their garden. Funny as that is, at the same time, I think we all sort of understand where this idea of a need for isolation comes from. Now, of course, I've got my wife and my dogs and friends and all, but I often find myself wanting to skip out on hanging out with them because I feel like I just need to be chained to this process of creating and making and doing, and any interruption to that is just taking away from my ability to do the thing. I'm not really sure why that's the case, because it's not like I'm creating things all the time, it's just that for some reason it feels like that's what you're supposed to do. A creator I really appreciate the hell out of is Isabel Page on YouTube, and she makes really unique content, and I think it's because she's isolated herself by living alone, at least as far as I'm aware, up on a mountain, and that's shielded her from all the weird, grifty hellscape that YouTube has become, which makes her content just very different and daring in a lot of weird ways. And one of the most unique byproducts is that in her videos, the mountain has become a character in its own right. Now, as cheesy as it sounds to say out loud, I think we all have our own mountain as creators, and it's something we only experience through isolation. It's that special liminal spark that lives in us that needs to be expressed. But the longer I've been doing all this stuff, the more I've really started to wonder if isolation is really a necessary part of the process. We've all got our mountain, but it's almost below the surface, and the only way to dig at it is to find perspectives and ideas. I can't remember where I found this quote originally, but it was somewhere along the way. Interesting people with interesting lives have interesting things to say. In the current era of content we find ourselves in, with all the grind and hustle culture and grifting and whatever, it's hard to not think that you're supposed to just move forward and push harder and be more willing to sacrifice anything than anybody else, and part of that is remaining isolated so that you can fully dedicate yourself to the experience of the craft. But I don't really think that's the case, and I think maybe we're missing out on something along the way. Deep down, I think we all know that art isn't really a competition, but it's sometimes hard to not see it that way. I think we all know that the fundamental truth is art and creative expression are something we do for the sake of doing it. I guess one of the things I learned from this trip is that you're never really as many degrees removed from being in a room full of people who completely understand you as you might think you are. If the expressive nature of art is truly a reflection of life, then it's necessary to go out and live. And I think the best way to do that is to connect with people and form that sense of community, not only to encourage you to create, but to challenge your ideas and perspectives on things. The more we immerse ourselves in these connections and ideas, the more we can reflect and bring something new to the surface. I think maybe the only way to truly create something that you think matters enough that other people need to see it is to understand that it's all about having something to say. I guess what I've come to realize through all this is that by connecting with these people who really understand things on a deeper level and get it or challenge my perspective on it, you get to recharge your creative batteries in a way that just can't really be done otherwise and really can't be done in isolation. It's only through experience that we gain perspective, and it's only through our own perspective and understanding it that we have anything to say at all. George Berkeley had this idea that people only understand things through their own perception, but everybody's perception of the world is just a little bit different, and there is no absolute. Our understanding and our way of self-expression as artists is made up of solely our own ideas, and there's no real justification for believing that they're all the exact same. So I guess in my mind what that means is, if you have an idea and you have something you want to say, then it's damn well worth doing. Although at times isolation may be necessary to really get it out, the only way to truly understand your own ideas and what you have to say is to live some life and gain a little bit of perspective and understand that it's going to be your own. I guess it turns out it's fun to have fun. And connecting with people who inspire you is actually pretty damn inspiring. And suddenly, in being inspired, you have a whole lot more to say. It's kind of funny how that works, isn't it?